Okay, we're ready to get started here. Welcome everyone to the October 21st Comox Valley Recreation Commission meeting. We'll begin by acknowledging that the lands on which we gather are the unceded territory of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land. Today we have Director Arbor and alternate Director Jolly Kerr on Zoom, and the rest of the commission is here in the boardroom. Our first item is a delegation follow-up, the Comox Valley Sports Hall of Fame. And I believe staff have an update on the delegation for us to consider.
Yeah, thanks very much. And as is typically our practice at a meeting where a delegation presents, the committee or the commission or the board doesn't typically make a decision, but it does come back for follow-up consideration. If the commission wants to make any further direction. Jennifer Zbinden, our Senior Manager of Recreation Facilities, I believe has an update. Jennifer has been in discussion for the past some time with a couple of different representatives from that group. So Jen, if I can turn the microphone over to you.
Through the chair, thank you, James. Yeah, staff have reached out to the Hall of Fame committee there to have a discussion and find out where to take things. They have suggested that they don't need the letter of recommendation or support anymore because they did feel very supported at the during their presentation. What staff would like to do is work on a partnership with them, and they are very eager to do so. And we would like to work towards what that partnership can look like and do a phased-in approach with a potential Hall of Fame, you know, a temporary location followed by a permanent location, really dependent on where we go with the rec strategic plan facilities. So at this time, staff would like to continue working closely with the Hall of Fame committee and seeing where we can take it.
Thanks for providing that update and the follow-up with that group, or becoming a more formalized group. It sounds like they're in the process of doing that. I don't see any lights on in the room. I guess my question is, do you need any direction from the board at this point, or is it sufficient to continue to work with them as they move the process forward?
Thanks for that. I think we certainly understand the dialogue at the commission meeting previously. Like Jen said, there is open dialogue now with that organization, and I think when there is something perhaps more substantive or a decision point, we can update the commission along the way.
That sounds good. Thank you. All right. Well, I don't think we moved receipt on that, so I think we can just move right along. The next item is the resolution status report. Moved by Hillian, seconded by Morin. Does any commission members have any questions on the status report? Seeing none, anyone opposed to receipt? And that's carried. And we'll move into reports. First item is the Arena 3 business case. Can I get a motion for receipt? Moved by Grant, seconded by Brown, and I'll pass this over to staff.
Thanks, Chair. Trish Morgan is our Assistant Senior Manager of Recreation Services, and Trish will be presenting this and I believe introducing our consultants that have supported this work as well. So Trish, over to you.
Thank you. So we've got Steve Slawuta and Mike Roma from RC Strategies. They presented to you back in May about the interim report on the Arena 3 business case. So they're going to present the final report, and then when they are done, I have a few slides just about the next steps that relate to the recommendation. And yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Great, thanks, Trish. Just to confirm, should I share my screen or is that viewable in the room there?
Yes, please share your screen. You've been given the option on the Zoom. I think it should work. I'll let you know if there's an issue with it.
Okay, great. I'll just pull it up here. Can everybody see that? Just confirm that you can see it.
Yes, it's showing in the room. And
excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. Steve Slawuta with RC Strategies, and I'm joined by my colleague Mike Roma. We're gonna tag team the presentation here a little bit, but I'll start. And in terms of the overview of the presentation here this afternoon, really threefold. The first kind of agenda item here is just to provide a little bit of context, background, and purpose on the Arena 3 business case that our team was retained to develop. Secondly, go over an overview of some of the key findings, and then thirdly, touch on the recommendations and additional considerations here. Sorry, just scrolled ahead there. Background. So the Arena 3 business case, so there's a feasibility study that was developed several, I guess, about a year ago, and that analyzed several potential options and identified developing a business case to further explore the costs and benefits of the community versus the spectator arena option, recognizing that the difference in the cost between the two is between $38 and $50 million. The business case purpose ultimately geared towards analyzing the operating cost, the risk profile, the types of uses that could occur in that facility, as well as looking at a host of other kind of considerations associated with both of the options, and really also digging into the social and economic impacts of both the two arena options that could be pursued, and ultimately providing decision makers with a point of reference that can inform future decision making. So I just want to touch on some of the key findings here as we that we kind of explored through the process here. And so there's a handful of key findings that we're going to go along here. So the first being just the part of the work looked at validating the need for a third arena and kind of looking at the capacity and undertaking some analysis around that. And really what the work showed that a third arena is actually required to meet user group and community-based needs, especially during peak seasons. And how we define peak seasons is looking at kind of that fall, that September to March, and then looking at evening, weekends, and weekends as being prime. Looking at future demand for ice, the population growth, kind of putting that all together, recognizing that some groups are likely to consume more ice than they currently would right now if more ice were available. What that reflects is that the level of growth for ice or the consumption of ice is likely to occur at a faster rate than population growth. Also significant here that most of the arena sport groups did indicate to us that they do not actually need additional seating capacity beyond kind of what is currently available in the arenas, that the 2,000 seats is not necessarily what they do need to support their needs. They're more concerned about kind of having the additional sheet and the opportunity to consume additional ice. Second key finding here is that when we looked at the 2,000 seat arena option, we uncovered that it would primarily serve sport purposes and it would have relatively limited application or utility as an entertainment venue. So when we looked at kind of what the potential is beyond things like hockey and other arena sports, really 2,000 seats present some challenges in terms of consistently being a venue for concerts. Typically, you need to get into that 5,000 capacity range in order to regularly be kind of a host of concerts due to a host of factors. That would include cost structures for some of those types of concerts and non-sporting events, the equipment and technical requirements that you need to have in an arena venue, and also competition with non-arena venues. So when you're in that 2,000 seat range, you tend to be in competition with soft seat theater venues and other types of venues for some of those acts. So when we looked at precedent facilities, which is really the key point of reference that we can look at in terms of how many non-arena sport events would take place in a facility and kind of put that together with our look at the market, it would be hard to support a conclusion that there would be more than 5 non-sport events that would take place in that arena per year. So the benefit would be primarily for anything that would require kind of seating capacity for things like hockey and other arena sports. Additional key finding here. So we did a dive into what would be the junior hockey potential of attracting a higher level of junior hockey to the region. And we concluded that there probably is some potential to attract a higher level of junior hockey, BCHL or similar. The Comox Valley is growing. It's a larger market than certainly a lot of other markets that are already within the league. But with that said, timing and specific proponents really hard to ascertain at this point in time. You're unlikely to get commitments until there is more confirmation on whether an arena would move forward and when it would move forward and what the operating model would actually look like and things of that nature. So to summarize, potential probably does exist, just hard to ascertain at this time without actually making the commitment. It is a little bit of a build it and they will come. The other point that we just wanted to hit on here as well is the last bullet on the screen there, that junior hockey is certainly in a state of flux. There's a number of dynamics, and we could probably spend an entire presentation on that, but certainly the NCAA accepting major junior players and kind of the trickle-down effect for that. So there is some level of evolution and potentially risk as it pertains to the future outlook for junior hockey that is a little bit uncertain at this time. And I'll hand over to Mike for a couple slides here.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks to the chair and the commission for having me. I'm going to start my slides by apologizing for having to wear a Blue Jays jersey. One reason for that is obviously because I'm invested in the sport and still a little emotional from yesterday. But the other is that it actually relates to the topic that I'm going to speak to. So up on the slide here, you see some estimates and some dollar figures around the benefits that the two different projects might bring to the community. So it is intuitive that a 2,000 seat venue would have extra economic and social benefit attached to it. These figures were calculated using something called the measuring impact calculators, which is a kind of an industry standard that we use to try to quantify some of these benefits. And the first bullet talks about the event-based tourism spending that would be expected in the community. And although there would be some of that would occur with the community arena, the spectator arena would generate over $1 million, about $1.1 million estimated annually in extra event-based tourism spending in the community, in the region. The other thing that projects do is they have impacts on the overall economic activity that you have in the region. And there's a one-time economic impact of typically used to measure gross domestic product or the impact on gross domestic product. So because the spectator arena has it's a more robust project, has a higher capital cost, it would lead to about $35 million more in GDP impact one time during construction. And then likewise, the spectator arena also has a higher operating budget. So again, more economic activity on an ongoing basis than the community arena. So there's an increase or a difference delta of about $270,000 per year in extra economic activity that would happen with the spectator arena versus the community arena. So those are kind of like the benefits of the economic benefits and the social benefits of the spectator arena versus the community arena. The next slide actually talks about the operational costs, the investment that you'd have to make to operate both arenas in both kind of ongoing operating and also thinking about amortization. So the estimates that we have here, this is early on, there's definitely a plus or minus attached to this, but we've estimated the community arena to cost about $150,000 per year to operate. That's expenses net of revenues, which is similar to your current arenas 1 and 2. But the annual investment required to operate the spectator arena is actually quite a bit more. And there's more space, there's a little bit of a different user profile. Some of the different uses maybe don't pay as much in terms of recovering costs through user fees. So it actually the estimate equates to about $440,000 per year. So almost $300,000 more per year to operate the spectator arena versus the community arena. And then tied to the capital costs is the annual amortization that you need to consider when you're making these types of decisions. So there would be more in terms of annual amortization costs attached to the spectator arena because it has a significantly higher capital cost. So with those two slides, what we're trying to do is explain and quantify as much as we can the benefit of both the spectator and the community arena, and also the annual ongoing operating costs for your consideration. Thank you, and back to you, Steve.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, so just to kind of bring that all together then into some recommendations and other items for your consideration here. So kind of at the end of the day, the analysis of both options really does support that the community arena is the recommended option. And you know, how did we come to that conclusion? We wanted to do that in a very transparent and as much as possible rationalized and data-driven way. So we ran both the community arena and the spectator arena option through a decision-making framework. And we use 6 criteria as part of the framework that are on the screen that you're looking at there, and essentially scored them using those criteria. So looking at community recreation benefits, that would entail essentially the degree to which both options meet kind of the needs for ice and other arena sports in the community. Looked at social benefits. We looked at economic benefits, which are some of the indicators that Mike just went through. And then looked at cost, capital, and operating in terms of overall numbers and risk profile. And then the last one there, the tertiary or secondary recreation and culture space gaps and the potential opportunity for both options to address those. And at the end of the day, the option that scored higher was the community arena. So that is where our recommendation is at. Just to further nourish or flesh that out a little bit more, so as Mike alluded to, there certainly are incremental economic benefits of the spectator arena compared to the community arena, but they are not sufficient to kind of offset the difference in kind of the risks and the cost. So the capital costs, obviously, almost double, operating cost more than double based on our initial projections. And certainly when you add in the amortization factor, it builds upon that. And then just the overall level of risk associated with both options, recognizing that part of the rationale for the spectator arena would be presumably the opportunity around junior hockey, as well as getting concerts and other events, which we've, based on the 2,000 seat capacity, we would suggest is going to be challenging to really kind of hit it out of the park with an arena at that capacity, which is the second point there. And related to the third point, that the majority of the uses that we've identified for as being needed for arena sports specifically, and in terms of the user groups and what they're looking for, hosting provincials and regionals and things like that, they don't need 2,000 seats. They're fine with a lower capacity, and for them, it's more about the support amenity and having 3 sheets of ice. A few additional considerations that we just wanted to leave you with as well before we conclude and take any questions. When we look at like where is that line for an arena capacity having some spectator event opportunity beyond hockey and other arena sports, it really comes into play around 5,000 seats. But just based on the costs associated with building and operating a scale of that facility, we're suggesting that be looked at when the population of the Comox Valley starts to get closer to or exceeds about 100,000 residents. And then the last point there, important to note as well, that the feasibility study that preceded our work, it looked at a number of different site options for these arenas, and it did identify the Comox Valley Sports Center as the best option, but certainly not an optimal option. And when we look at kind of the potential of a spectator arena being revisited down the road, we would suggest revisiting potential alternative sites. Given that a lot of the opportunity around a spectator arena is in creating kind of an entertainment district that people can walk to, and where you can leverage retail and other opportunities sort of in and around an arena venue, which is challenging with the Comox Valley Sports Center site. So we just wanted to identify that as something to consider moving forward should a spectator arena be revisited down the road. And with that, we'll take any questions. Thank you for the time to give you the presentation here.
Thanks for the presentation, Steve and Mike. There are a few lights on in the room. Did staff want to follow up at all? I turned your mic on. I wasn't sure if you had something you wanted to add.
Through the chair, So I do have a few slides. We could go through those now. It relates to the recommendation, or if you like, we can have questions to Steve and Mike.
I think it makes sense to do all the presentation together, and then we'll do questions if that's works for everyone. I'll pass it back to you.
All right, before we go on to questions, we'll just talk about next steps and the recommendations. So in the report, you'll see that we have recommended referring the business case to Comox Valley Schools for their review and feedback and further discussion with the CVRD and consideration of extending the property lease to allow for construction. And of course, this would be contingent upon the board approval and a successful referendum. The director of operations for Comox Valley Schools was engaged by the consultants during the business case process, but the Board of Education and other senior staff may wish to meet with us and have some further discussions that fall outside the business case. So talking more about potential parking, traffic impacts to the Vanier campus, if there's opportunities for collaboration, perhaps joint programming and courses, possibly shared or dedicated spaces, especially as the school district is working through their facilities plan, and if they have other concerns, questions, or ideas. If Comox Valley Schools is in favor after that process of a new arena and extending the lease, then at that time, as Steve alluded to, there was, well, he talked about stakeholder engagement. But some of the stakeholders talked about being engaged in the design process, specifically around dressing rooms, storage areas, and also enhancing the seating in the spectator arena, certainly not to a 2,000 seat kind of idea, but beyond what we have right now in our community rink, which is those metal portable bleachers. So looking at 300 or 400 seats and something that's a little bit different. And then after we put together an updated concept and we would get an updated cost estimate, that would come back to the Recreation Commission and the board to consider whether or not to move forward to referendum on that and for long-term borrowing. Just for a quick reference, this is just a picture of the concept that we're talking about, the attached arena. And you can see that the parking would be changed significantly. And one of the asks we have of the school district is consideration of perhaps building a bus turnaround at Vanier, and that would be as part of the cost of building the arena, if they so approved. So the recommendation from staff is that the Recreation Commission focus efforts on the development of a community arena attached to the sports center, recognizing that this is the most cost-effective approach to meet current and future recreation needs. And further, that the Recreation Commission refer the Arena 3 business case to Comox Valley Schools for their review, feedback, and further discussion with the CVRD, and respectively request that the Comox Valley Board of Education support the extension of the sports center lease to facilitate the future construction of the community arena, associated parking infrastructure, and new bus turnaround at GP Vanier, funded by the CVRD. The report identifies the main reasons why we agree with the business case, being that it's a significantly lower capital cost. It's almost half as much. The operational subsidy for operating a community rink is 1/3 the cost of the subsidy needed for a spectator rink. And then there's the market risk, again, with the spectator rink that junior hockey right now, it's just very uncertain with the BCJHL, the Canadian Hockey League, the NCAA. It's very difficult to determine whether or not we would be able to get a tenant. And I think Steve might have said it, he's at least said it to me quite a few times. It's a chicken and egg thing. But there is a big risk in spending, $30 to $50 million more and then not having a tenant. And limited event demands. We may only get 3 to 5 major events per year, and that raises some concerns about utilization. And then finally, operational challenges from our side. When you have the ice in and you have events that come in during your ice season, it can shut your arena down for anywhere from 4 to 6 days just to put it on that temporary surface, set up the event, take it down, that sort of thing. So it can be very difficult to program. And that's all I have for you.
Thanks for that report, Trish. I will pass it over to Director Grief for the first question.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I don't share your pessimism, actually. We talk about 2,000 seat sports arena as if 2,000 is the maximum capacity, but being a very famous in my own mind rock star at one time, I can tell you that you put almost as many people on the floor. So that's double almost. At least another 1,000 would go on the floor as well. So there would be capacity there. Talk about reaching 100,000 K for population. We're going to be there pretty soon. Now, maybe you're not aware of the expansion that's going on at the air base. We're going to probably see quite a huge bump in population over the next 5 years. Also a younger demographic than we are currently experiencing. You know, I think we have to keep in mind that we're not building this for today. I don't know what the lifespan is of something like this, probably 50, 80 years, sort of like our old one if we build it that way. I mean, it can also be refurbished later on. You got to remember, you know, we're looking at it through today's eyes. Here we go, Uncle Eddie. When I grew up, these were all farms out there. Downtown Courtney was basically 3 streets. Comox was 1 block long, and Cumberland was a long distance telephone call. When Vanier was built in 1967, it was way the hell in the middle of nowhere. What are we doing putting this Vanier out there for? You know, it's area B in the regional district. Wasn't even in Courtney. So we got to remember that we're building for tomorrow, and we all know that the cheapest time to build is today. We leave this thing go for another 10 years, it'll be triple the price anyways. We are expecting some major population growth. We are expecting much younger demographics than the current cohort of the 60% over 60. So that makes quite a difference in the way you look at this thing going forward. I would just like to say that I think you have to be brave when you're building for the future. You really have to. You talk about build it and they will come. Well, that's a true axiom. It does happen, and in this case, I think it's going to happen. So I would caution my colleagues around this table to think with their 20-year goggles on. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, and I'll pass it to Director Brown.
Thanks, Chair. And thanks to Director Grief for giving us the future eye and the past eye as well. I'm sure we've talked about this at multiple iterations during this process, but I continue to struggle with consolidating all of the rec facilities in the same area. And specifically for this one, if we are looking at long-term potential for expansion. So I guess my first question is, is it possible to build a sheet of ice and then add on to the seating structure as the community grows? Because that would be an ideal situation where we start with a community size rink and then we grow it as the community grows into a larger facility. Given this location, that's likely not possible in this spot. But yeah, those are my 2 concerns. Remind me again why this is so the preferred location, and also, is it possible to do this in a kind of modular expansion kind of way?
Through the chair to Director Brown. So staff was directed to look at adding an arena on the Sports Center Vanier campus. So we have not looked at other locations other than very quickly we looked at whether or not something could fit up at North Island College. North Island College is going through their own facilities master planning and they need to reserve space because their site is very small. So if other sites would like to be looked at, that is an optional recommendation in the report. We could certainly come back with some information on some other locations that could be looked at. And we are aware that there has been a lot of discussion to look at other areas of the Comox Valley. We just have not been directed to do so at this time to look at that. In terms of adding onto the arena, certainly it could be added on to and added seating, but it comes at a price, and Strathcona Gardens is going through that right now. So they are at 742 seats. They're going up to 1,600 seats. We're still not sure exactly how long their arena is going to be closed for, but it could be a considerable length of time. And I don't have the budget figures in front of me, but it's almost close to, I would say, Doug, building a community rink is just the cost of renovating it. So, so that is concerning. Yeah. So.
Thanks for those questions. And I'll go to Director Arbor online.
Thanks. Apologies, I've got a bit of a flu if my voice is not perfect. Yes, thanks for the report. I share, as you've heard me before, similar concerns as Dr. Brown expressed. But I just want to kind of take a step back and just think about where we're at just 2 years and a half after we completed the strategic plan. And one of the core principles, or one of the key principles in the strategic plan, was geographic diversity. And it does seem to have disappeared from our overall approach at the Rec Commission. And that is very disappointing. And I do realize there was a vote to look at the sports center specifically for an arena. So I'm not going to contest that vote didn't happen. But what I want to talk about is just 2 years and a half later, the economic conditions and the cost of things, to me, is kind of sobering. With the 3 projects, because we're not looking at the pool yet, but with the turf field, which we know the cost escalation, and now the arena, the cost since 2023 of just the arena is equivalent to the cost of what those 3 projects were going to cost altogether. And I think we've gone from a $75 per household to maybe a $200 average, on average per household. We've also seen housing costs, like everything. We don't need to talk about costs because everything has just gone insane. I disagree with Director Grieve. I think that we are currently in the hottest market. And I think that a good time to build facilities like that, when everybody is short on labor and costs have escalated, is it the right time? Or is it the time, and at the same time, grants from the province and feds are drying up. Like, we almost can assume we're not going to get grants for the pool and the arena. All those conditions to me are kind of flashing red, and a good time to build facilities like that is typically in recessions, when the market is not as hot, and that's typically when the province and the federal government start releasing grants that we could access as they try to tickle up the economy. And one thing that's disappeared back on the core principle around this arena is, other than, yes, I would love to for this commission to explore option 3. In fact, having a couple of locations would achieve that geographic diversity. And maybe we could take time to consider the timing for doing this. One aspect that's disappeared in this project is when you look at the site plan, it's so squished. Like, we're basically like doing everything to fit this arena in the parking lot. It does look awkward, and it's just, we're really pressing that site to its max. And at the time, one of the favored option was a leisure ice. I don't know if you remember when we did the tour, but we all walked into the pool at the sports center, and we had some discussions around simply putting a leisure ice and replacing the pool. So with cost escalation, I think it's a good time to revisit. And personally, I would kind of pause on pushing forward with these kinds of costs and scope at that site. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing those observations and thoughts on how we move ahead on this project. Appreciate those. I thought we had another light on in the room, but maybe it's gone off. Okay, in that case, I'll pass it to alternate director Jolicoeur.
Thanks, Chair. I've got two questions for clarity, but I'm happy to get back in line. The first one is to staff. In the staff report, under financial implications, it highlights the need to go to referendum. And so I guess I had some curiosity because it doesn't articulate it in the staff report. But does the commission, where's the commission's current debt servicing liability? Why is it that we need to go to the referendum? Is it a specific number cutoff? And can staff speak to where we actually are with our debt as a commission? And is that something that's shared with the CVRD more broadly, or does the commission have a separate service debt ratio liability? Thanks.
Thanks. I'll ask Lucy Wichart to come up, but I'll take a stab at it first. I heard two questions there. One is, excuse me, why do we have to go to referendum? And secondly, what is the commission's debt servicing limit? Anytime we go to long-term borrowing, we do have to get approval from the public, unless it's through a liquid waste management plan or some other legislative process. So if we are looking to borrow long-term for more than 5 years, then we do need to get elector approval, whether that be through referendum or AAP or some other means. And then Lucy, can you speak to the debt servicing limit? Municipalities and regional districts are a little bit different, so perhaps that's partly where your question is coming from, Director Jolicoeur. Lucy can take that one.
Through the chair to the director, as a regional district, we do not have provincial set debt limits. And currently we don't have internal ones either. Not to say that we're not cautious around the debt limits, but we are not subject to nor limited to provincial debt limits. And would you also, I heard a second question there about wanting to know what, would you like to know what kind of debt is currently sitting with rec facilities? Is that something? We'll just take a minute maybe to pull that figure, or Kelly actually, as is pretty typical, she's got it all pulled for you. So she'll just come to the mic and she can let you know what that is, okay?
Chair, can I just have a follow-up when staff are doing that on the first comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
And thanks for that. So, and the clarity around the long-term borrowing needing to go to the electors for approval. And so staff are recommending a referendum versus an AAP. Is there some rationale that staff can provide for that?
We're not actually making that recommendation. The recommendation is really about engaging with Comox Valley Schools at this time. I think given the scale and magnitude of the borrowing being considered here and the long-term nature, I think there was interest or discussion on referendum, but that would be a decision for the commission to make down the road.
Would you like us to give the?
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Thank you.
So currently the Recreation Service 645 has got one long-term debenture that expires in 2030. The original amount borrowed was just over $1 million. And to date, we have just over $520,000 outstanding.
Thanks. Probably a reflection of the age of our facilities, that number. Thanks for answering that. I'll pass this to Director Hardy, as he is a first-time speaker, and then we'll circle back.
Thanks, Sharon. I guess maybe I missed it in the presentation, but I'm not entirely sure what the agreement is between the CVRD and the school district for CVRD infrastructure like swimming pools and hockey arenas on their property. And where I'm going with this is I'm just wondering again, what would the potential extra cost be for building off of the school district property? Like say, for example, if we're building a spectator arena downtown Courtenay, what's the cost of property there versus the cost of or lease of property at the school district? So I'm just wondering if anybody that wrote the report could maybe answer that question. Thanks.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Through the chair to Director Hardy. So we've got a long-term lease.
Do you want, sorry, Trish, can you?
Oh, A little bit better? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have a long-term lease with the school district for this.
Your computer's on the.
Out this.
There we
Okay.
go.
I feel like a rock star. So we do have a long-term lease with the school district. I believe there's no fee associated, or it's a very nominal fee associated. What the school district does get in exchange, though, is opportunities to bring classes and programs to use the sports center and the pool at a reduced fee or no fee at all. And what our staff have done is to help the school district over the years too, is to help apply for grants for busing, because that usually is the biggest barrier to the schools using the facilities. So it's a bit of a partnership and exchange there. So there's no fee for the land, but about 7,500 students since COVID every year come and use the facilities for swimming, skating, hockey, that sort of thing.
Thanks for that context. Was that your only question, or did you want to get back on? Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So for the folks that wrote the report, I guess, when we are looking at considerations of an additional arena, here's what the cost of community arena, spectator arena would be if it's located on school district property. What are we looking at for additional costs if it's being built off the school district properties, is I guess the question I'm asking. Like, are we comparing apples to apples here?
Through chair to Director Hardy, we haven't done that analysis, so all we have to go on is perhaps comparative properties that have been purchased by the CVRD over the last few years. And since a lot of that has been enclosed, I think you probably have a little bit more information than I do, but yeah, the land cost would be significant. And then it would depend on the parcel if we have to extend utilities, things like that. But that's where if we were to investigate option 3, we could bring back some possibilities.
Thanks for those questions. Director Brown is next.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm just reminding myself of the capital plan timeline. And it looks like this arena is next up after the turf. I'm sure these dates have shifted somewhat, but it looks like 2027 coming into arena planning or building. And so it would make sense for us to go to referendum next year with the election. But we want to have our ducks in a row when we do that and make a good case for that. And I think, you know, I feel like the opportunity cost of adding this rink to this facility is having a different facility that serves a different location of the community that would accommodate both the pool and the ice rink, and then provide the heat exchange efficiencies as well, and the potential for expansion. And I appreciate the relationship with the school district and the fact that building it here is the cheapest option and the most efficient option, but I'm not sure it's the best long-term option. And so that's what I'm struggling with. I also am looking toward recommendation 3 and looking at other locations to find synergies to do both those, the pool and the ice rink, in a similar location.
So just to be clear, you're interested in moving the aquatics center as well as, or I'm not following the pool part. Just if you want to clarify, sorry.
Sorry, I haven't been part of the pool conversation, so I assume that is an additional pool. It's not, it's redoing the aquatic center. Okay, well, forget that idea then. Maybe there's some other synergy with another facility in the future. But I just think that a different location would be good for us to look at. And also put it out to the public to make sure that they are also thinking about that. Because if we're going to go to the public for funding this, and we're looking at over the capital plan, $116 million worth of facilities, I just think we need to build the story around that, serving a broader section of the community.
Thanks for that clarification and additional comment. I'm going to go to Trustee Waite next. And just for the commission, we have another significant item for discussion in the closed, and we do have a limited amount of time here. So if people could really work on being concise with their questions and comments at this point, so we can kind of get to a decision point on where we want to go with this. I'll get your mic turned on. Thanks. Oh, sorry.
There we go. The light to change. Perfect. I'm not going to comment on the matter before us. In light of the way the current motion is worded, I feel like that representing the board in this room puts me in a complicated situation in either voting on this recommendation or even not voting, because your terms of vote process are different than ours. I'm allowed to abstain as a trustee in our board meetings, but I'm not, that doesn't work this way. That follows a more traditional rules of order. So I'm going to be stepping away from the table at this point. And I could be watching this online, so I'm just going to watch it from a chair. And so I just sharing that due to the way the motion is worded, and rather go doing a motion to divide or any of those other pieces, I'm just going to step away, which will probably help the timeliness of the meeting.
Thanks for providing that explanation. And yeah, I appreciate that. And we'll just call you back when we're done with this piece. And we'll call Director Grieve next, because I accidentally put your mic on, so you get to go next.
Very, very briefly, I think that Director Brown has a great idea. I think if we're going to go to the public anyway, and we're going to ask for a referendum, let's give them 3 options. Let the people choose what they want. We might be surprised.
Okay. And Director Grant, I have a hard time seeing your mic from where I'm sitting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I know I always get lost over here. So it seems clear to me that putting 2,000 seats around a rink is probably not the right answer. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that says it doesn't work. What I'm wondering is, if you didn't go to the site where we're currently talking about, how many acres of land would we need to do that? I would have to guess it would be 7 to 10 acres.
Probably at least 4. Oh.
Through the chair to Director Grant, we could probably, if it was just an arena, if it's not a spectator arena, 4 or 5 acres.
Okay.
We would need to bring the architects back to do an analysis. The good thing is the way that they have done the conceptual designs. You literally could pick it up and move it somewhere else, but they'll need to do a parking analysis on that,
Right.
and see how it conforms to the City of Courtenay's parking bylaws. But the buildings, even though, we're here showing it attached, they literally could just be picked up and moved somewhere else.
Yeah, I think there's a significant cost to doing it, is the point, to buying off-site and doing this. And I guess it would be good to know what that cost is, but, and we do seem to have some time, but I think it'll be more significant than people think.
Through the chair to Director Grant, it also will depend on the scope, if it's just an arena, or, as Director Brown mentioned, a pool too, because we do have some challenges with expanding the aquatic center.
Yeah, and if I could just pick up on that point, I mean, there seems to be two possibilities here. I wonder if there's a third. The motion is basically to continue on this or the recommendation, sorry, is to continue on this process, focusing on the smaller facility, less seating, and then the other thing that's come up is the possibility that we've overlooked a better opportunity for a site. Could we continue? Because I mean, we're at a point where we're going to be in a holding pattern, waiting for a decision from the school district on their facility. Could we advance the recommendation while providing additional direction on making sure we haven't overlooked another Is it possible to do both, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yes, in response, yes, we could do both. Absolutely. We could look at other opportunities for land, and also the school district could consider. And again, they're looking at their own facilities plan, and the site's very small, and they may have to decline to our request.
Yeah, so it may be better for us to do both, and otherwise we could end up 3 or 4 months waiting and then find out that we don't really have this option in front of us. Okay, great. You are a first-time speaker, Director Moore, and I'll put you in the front of the line.
Thanks, I'll be quick. Yeah, I thought something notable was that the user group input into this sounds like it's supporting the community rank option. I think that's important to note, that the spectator arena to me would involve a lot more engagement, because it would have a lot of different uses that we'd want to invite engagement from a much broader the broader community, if we're looking at, you know, concerts and all these other things. So I mean, I think that yeah, the fact that the user groups are supporting this option and are saying that it would be adequate. I mean, obviously everybody would love things to be bigger and better, but I think that factors into the decision as well. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that context. And I believe Director Arbor is next, and we'll give you the final comment, alternate Director Jolicoeur, and then we'll make a decision.
Yeah, thanks. And I just want to speak again and follow up on Dr. Brown. I think there is a need for additional water surface. That's why in our capital projects, we need more water surface. That's why we're contemplating a project that's supposed to come next. And I think that what she was referring to is the opportunity to maybe locate something that would have one rink with a swimming pool and then loop in with the heat exchange system, so a brand new build in a different part of the valley, we have 2 bridges going to this current facility, and I think, as we've said before, concentrating is many of us feel that's not really the way to go. And second, from my perspective in the area, it's very unfair. And if we go that route, I will ask for a change in cost apportionment for this service, because it's just plain unfair. I would also highlight that I like what Dr. Brown said in terms of the long view. I think right now we're making decisions just like we almost feel, like you said, Chair, like we feel pressed, but these are big decisions. One thing that we haven't raised today is where's the growth going to come from in the Comox Valley? And treaty has just passed. Yes, we've talked about the interchange, we've talked about East Courtney, we've talked about different location, but one new very interesting partnership could be with Comox First Nation. The school district is also, I think they've now secured, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they've now secured the site for the future school between Union Bay and Royston, and that's a fair size of land that will be there. So if you take that longer term view with KFN that's going to develop down there, and the potential for attracting federal funding, I think rushing is not the play right now. So you've heard me say that the last couple of meetings, but just reiterating. So I'll definitely be voting for option 3 to get us sometimes and see what other possibilities exist, including KFN. Thanks.
Thanks. And over to you, Director Jolicoeur.
Yeah, and I'm like where you're going, Chair, with your idea of not leaving any stone unturned in the absence of some feedback from the school district. I kind of support that. And that was my second question for clarification, was actually option 3 in the staff report speaks to some of the thinking that staff have around West Courtney and South Courtney. Similar to Director Arbor's comment, I'm also really curious, given the costs of this and where the growth of the Comox Valley is for that area. And so in the staff report, it speaks to staff having already some ideas of some properties if we gave them direction to go forward with that. And so I'm wondering if staff can speak a little bit more in detail around, is it that they they see kind of a potential just for the arena, or is this also for a consolidation of other recreational assets like the pool or fields for that matter? Thanks.
I think as the option 3 there talks about it is development of a new arena and other recreation amenities. So we could certainly come back and flesh that out in greater detail. I'm also mindful of time. And if that's the direction that the commission wants to provide, we can certainly provide more context and detail there.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just share a couple of my thoughts on this as I haven't done so yet. And I mean, basically, this report brings in front of us addressing a need that's been identified through our capital planning process and certainly from the community. I mean, it's clear in the report. It's clear probably to all the commission members moving around the community that we hear pretty regularly that there is a strong desire from ice users for more ice. I haven't actually heard a lot in the community about wanting a facility with significantly more seating or round seating. That's on a personal level, that's never come up to me directly. I mean, we've certainly discussed it at this table, but in terms of what I've heard in the community, that's doesn't seem to be the primary concern. And it is ultimately our residents that will be funding this project. Yeah, and then with regards to this kind of wider discussion around co-locating a pool and another ice sheet, that this was the Sportsplex option, I believe, in our capital plan, which was the one that was not very well supported when we did our capital or our strategy around our capital plan. So it is interesting to me that we're circling back to that. That was $100 million project, roughly, in the plan. And I think at the time the ice sheet was estimated to be about 16 million. So I would assume that it would be subject to that same type of cost escalation, that would be in the hundreds of millions of dollars if we're wanting to create a completely separate facility. So that is, I believe, why it's the furthest out in the plan, is that these were considered more doable options in the short term for our community. So I do think that there is value in doing our due diligence and making sure that we have another, making sure that we're not overlooking another location. But I think I would be surprised if we're going to come up with a completely new facility at this point and still be meeting the needs of the community who are shouting for some more opportunities to play some sports on their ice sheets. So I'll leave my comments at that. We do need someone to make a motion. I'll turn it over to Director Morin.
Thanks. Very quick comment and then the motion. I don't feel comfortable going down the direction of looking at other land, etc. I'd like to focus on the motion for today, because I think that it's a much larger conversation. I think there's a lot of piecemeal things going on. Comox may have some things on the go about facilities. I think we need to have a more regional conversation about facilities in general and where, and looking at the regional growth strategy, as Director Arbor said, where the growth is happening and how to, what are the opportunities for creating facilities together more regionally rather than everybody kind of doing their own thing. And I think we also need a land acquisition strategy as well. So those are my comments, and I will make the motion on the recommendation that was put before us. I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it can go up on the screen.
Oh, sorry, we'll dispense with receipt. Is there anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried. I'll leave it to you to move.
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation that was proposed around the option. Sorry, my glasses are not working that great.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the motion that is posted on the agenda has been moved and seconded. And I'll give Director Brown the last comment here, and then we're going to vote for the interest of time.
Sorry, we can vote first.
Okay, I'll call the vote in that case. All those in favor? Any opposed? Director Grieve is opposed, Director Arbor is opposed. And if I missed anyone, please say so. Oh, were you in favor, Director Jolicoeur? We just couldn't see you on the Zoom. Thank you. All right. We'll move it back to you. What would you like to add?
I'd like to make a second motion that staff review alternate locations for this arena while we are consulting with Comox Valley Schools.
Second.
We do have a seconder, moved by Brown, seconded by Jolicoeur, and I'm gonna hope there's no desired discussion on this. All those in favor? Any opposed? Lauren's opposed. Anyone else opposed on that? I'm just trying to make sure we're accurate with the voting. I think we got it. Got it. Yeah, just one opposed. Okay, carrying along here. Clean BC Better Buildings Program grant applications. Moved by Hillian, seconded by Grant. Over to staff. I think there is a report attached to this that staff may want to speak to very briefly.
Thanks. There's a staff report, and if the commission would like any further context, Tricia is here to provide that if you would like. However, I think it is fairly straightforward, and the recommendation again is fairly straightforward.
Yes, yeah, it is a straightforward recommendation, and I see no lights on, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, I guess I need to dispense with receipt, so dispense with that, and all those in favor. Anyone opposed? And that's carried. I think we just need a motion for receipt on this FIFA watch party. Oh, did I skip one? Oh, I see. I thought we had. Okay, my mistake. All right. Who moved the recommendation? Has it been moved? Hillian, seconded by Grant. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Okay, yeah, it just threw me right off, just skipping around here. And then the final thing is the FIFA watch party report. Moved by Grant, seconded by Hillian. Anyone opposed to receipt? Seeing none, that's carried, and a motion to move into closed. Moved by Grieve, seconded by Brown. All those in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried.